You're listening to the Woman of Value podcast. You are about to hear the story of a woman who is following her dreams and passions and creating positive change in the world.
Like, your soul has desires, and they wouldn't be there if they weren't supposed to be fulfilled, right? So why should you not be all about that? Love yourself enough to say, that is mine to do and have, and I will not settle.
My guest today is Therese Skelly. She works with high-achieving women in business who are committed to making a difference in the world. These talented women know they're sitting on a gold mine, but they often feel the pain of knowing that they're in their own way. Boy, do I know about being stuck like that. Through the work that they do together, her clients begin to own their value, make more money, serve more people, and have a business that makes them happy. Welcome to the show, Therese.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So happy to have you. So we always start with, what does a woman of value mean to you? So please answer that question for us.
Oh my gosh, that is, I think the expression, we teach what we need to learn, right? And so one of the things I always teach about it is how to own your value. And lately, and I don't know if I'll get into much of the story, but I have kind of created what I call the Fiercely Here Manifesto. And it's sort of similar because what I think happens for women is, at least women over 40, right? Let's qualify that. There's so much cultural conditioning that there still is asking for permission, or not being afraid to kind of grab it, just go for it, or boldly step up. So what I teach my women is to be fiercely here. And that means you walk in the room and you don't look around going, is it okay if I'm here? Like you know your own authority, and you source your wisdom from inside instead of going, is it okay? Should I? What do you think? That kind of stuff. Like you own who you are, you own what you get to do in the world, and crazy, you own what you want, right? Like, is it okay to want money? Is it okay to want that hot young boyfriend? Is it okay to want sex? Is it okay to want to not be with my kids, right? And so that to me is like, a woman of value really owns herself.
That's a great explanation of woman of value. It's actually unique. I haven't heard that one yet. I love it. And, you said we teach what we need to know. So tell us about how you stepped into your value. Tell us about that.
I wish I could say it was like, oh my gosh, it just happened instantly. And it was such a long journey. And so a little backstory is, I was a psychotherapist for years, and then moved into life coaching. And then I jumped into business coaching. I had a chip on my shoulder of, I'm only a therapist, or I was not in business world. I don't have the right degree. So even though I had mad skills, I was super brilliant, I couldn't own my value because of all these alleged, these myths, basically, right? And I'm a therapist, and I couldn't even fix my own self, right? And so I did it for years and years. And here's what happened. And sometimes this is what it takes. I put together a business mastermind with some beautiful women colleagues, but they're all kind of kick-ass colleagues, like the women that will tell you the truth, which I personally love. And so back in the day, I was a marketing strategist doing a little mindset on the side, and they kicked me in the butt. Like they whomped me, and basically is, what the heck are you doing? Like, there's nobody better in this mindset stuff than you. Like, it's crazy the work you do. Why are you saying you're a marketer? And so part of it is, I had to acknowledge that I had been afraid. I had to acknowledge that I back in 2008, when I first started, people weren't talking about transformation or feminine energy or spirituality. So I was more hardcore business coaching, marketing. And so I had to acknowledge, like, I don't really want to sell this anymore. I want to be known for this. And so I got the butt kicking. and then I just started just trending in that way. I started pivoting my business to go like, no, what would I love to do? Not what would sell or what I've been known for. And that's a scary thing sometimes. But like, no, where am I the most lit up? And also, because we talked about relationships earlier, before we started, that's been the greatest. Going through relationships has taught me to own my value. Shows me all the places I'm not owning my value based on who I choose. And so it's like, I don't think I'm going to tolerate that anymore either. So for me, owning my value is very much what I will accept and I will not accept. And that's kind of a new one this last year. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we all need friends who kick us in the butt.
Oh,
And
yes.
I mean, honesty, as I get older, I have less tolerance for BS,
So
right?
much. Yes.
And so what you're describing is this place of finding your truth, finding
Mm-hmm.
what lights you up, not what makes someone else happy, not what makes, your mother happy, your child happy, your
Right.
friend happy. It's really about finding what lights you up. And you found it.
Mm-hmm. I
So
have.
what does
I
that
have.
look like? What is that? You mentioned spirituality, and it's not this like package that other people
Yeah.
expected of
So
you.
I used to back in the day, I'd say, do I want to be on the stage with the top marketers talking about, split testing and headlines, or do I want to be on the stage with Wayne Dyer? And I'm like, oh, good hell, it's Wayne Dyer. And so, but I love the world of business. I love, to be a businesswoman, because the people I work with are generally service-based business owners like you and I, or coaches or whatever. Talk about having difficulty owning your value when you're selling you know what I mean? If you're selling for somebody else or you're selling commodities, oh, well, this glass, ugh. But when it's you that's up for sale, woo, right? And so it's really hard. And so what having gone through the struggles that I went through and understand how difficult it is to raise your rates, to boldly, shamelessly proclaim who you are. That's very hard for a 40-year-old plus woman, right? And maybe 30s have the same thing, but our demographic is generally women over 40, and so I just started just kind of gradually doing more mindset, more energy, more healing work. Um, Focusing on the inside game instead of the outer game, because you've had this too, probably. You give a client a strategy, it's a perfect strategy, and they mess it up, or they sabotage, it's just. And with my therapy skills, I had a perfect background. And so the place I'm supposed to be at is what I fought for years and years and years. And I just started saying yes to, like, yeah, wow, I'm kind of crazy intuitive, and I'm hearing things in my head telling, you know what I mean? I just surrendered. So what I do is I work with, like, the emotions and the energy and what I call the embodied part of it. Like, who do you have to be? That woman of value. It's not just, here's the activities, here's what your affirmation is. No. It's, you gotta, like, get it in your body and just live that. And so I help people really get that piece of it. So
Mm, that sounds wonderful.
thanks.
Yeah, I find that a lot of practitioners, whether they're coaches, and especially in my other profession as a dating coach, a lot of them will tell people to wear certain clothes that are more
Ugh.
attractive, or cut your hair. No, grow your hair, not cut your hair, because men like long hair, all men, and
All
show more
men.
cleavage
Yeah.
and lose
Right,
weight, and
right, right.
and then take these fake photos
uh,
and then morph yourself into something you're not, so that you can hook a guy, or just go online, just get over yourself. That's basically what it is. Be somebody else and get over yourself. And that makes me nuts. And I'm sure these people wouldn't even see that. But I get a lot of the fallout from those people who say to me, the work you do with me has changed me from the inside out. And
absolutely.
it's
Right.
exactly the same thing. I take all those modalities, and I
Mhm.
feel like you have to have a holistic approach to this,
You got
or
to. You can't,
nothing's going to
definitely.
change.
Or my favorite one, because I've been a single woman for lots of years. It would be like, you're so picky. Basically, lower your standards. Just
Oh
take
yeah.
something, And it's the same way in business. I think how we be in relationships and how, because we're kind of selling ourselves either way,
Oh
to
yeah.
prospective partners or prospective clients. And it's the same, like, it's really funny, like, the line, like, what I'm hearing, what they're telling me in my head, my intuition is like, you get to want what you want.
Mm.
And women that own their value, like, I literally have been told thousands of times, well, like, why do you have to have that kind of a man? Why do you want so much? Why, as opposed, and it's like, because I want it. And that's enough. And I don't have to defend it. I don't have to apologize or justify. I just go, this is mine. And so same thing with my business and what I do with my clients. It's like, your soul has desires. and they wouldn't be there if they weren't supposed to be fulfilled, right? So why should you not be all about that? Love yourself enough to say, that is mine to do and have, and I will not settle. I'm getting all militant. We're going to get
I
all
can
fighty
see.
on this one. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, you totally came alive. And the truth is that when you align with who you are and when you become super selective, I wouldn't say picky, I would say
selective. That's a great
you
word.
should be
Yeah,
selective. I
absolutely.
don't want to settle. I've done it before. I did it in my marriage. I've done it many times.
Raise your
And
hand if you've done that
right,
before.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
And it comes back to bite you because it is not a good fit. You're trying to take something and make it into something else. And I think the more we grow as women and the more we value ourselves, the more we know what we need and want, and nothing else is okay. It's not, and I want to put a caveat here because it's not
Okay.
about being entitled. It's not about being super picky, like to the point of not having anyone be okay. It is
Right.
really about aligning with who you are and finding people, as clients and also as partners, who align with you and who add value to your life the way you add value to theirs. I used to have clients who I knew in my intuition right away they were not a good fit. And when I came from a place of scarcity in the beginning of my
Okay, you take them.
practice, yeah, I would take them and it never worked. Within like 3 sessions,
You
they
can tell.
were coming late, they were blaming me when things
Yeah.
didn't work out, they
Yeah.
weren't doing the work, they were misinterpreting everything. Now I turn people down all the time. I'm super selective. I have a whole selection process, just like I do with dating. I think that that's part of owning your value. Yeah.
What I was going to say to add to that, in life and business and dating and all of it, you have to be
Mhm.
willing to walk away. You have to be
Yes.
willing to say, I would rather, I don't have to do this. You know, it's like you said, we get to choose our clients and our partners. We don't have to go, oh, somebody's going to choose. I think for me, because my history, I was so codependent and shame-based. It was like, somebody wants me. I was the sickly kid, that never got picked in sports. So I'm like, somebody's choosing me? Okay, totally the wrong people, but like that little wounded part of me that just wanted to be chosen. And that ran my business for a really long time. Will you love me? I'll be the best. I'll try hard. Like, oh, good hell. It's like the overgiving codependent superhero. Yay, did that one. And I did that with relationships as well. And so, it's really lovely to be, as I say, I've got some wrinkles now. I'm this age, but I have myself. Woo! There's nothing better than like being the fullness of who you are and knowing what you want, what you want, and being willing to say, that's not going to work for me. Whatever it
Yeah.
is. Can't
Yeah.
do it. Not going to do it.
So true. And unapologetically.
It's lovely.
Yes, I love it too. I think, people complain about aging and I never really understood that. I just
Mhm.
like, first of all, aging is a gift. There's a lot, the alternative's not very good.
It's true. It's
But
true.
also, like, are you aging well? Are you
Yeah.
living into your purpose and have a meaningful life? Because if you do, it's like every day is exciting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, so, Therese, take us through. You also had talked in your when you applied to be on the show. You talked about a time when you were bankrupt and you had all these other horrible things happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like you're obviously on the other side of
Yeah.
that. And can you take us through like how you overcame that struggle?
So it was the 2000, the recession basically. But let me take you back a little bit before that, because we really can't blame anything. Yes, there are factors in the economy, but it was more my consciousness, right? So I was married, and my husband had just a boatload of money, and I was a woman raised that the parents never, we were not raised like, let's talk about money, let's talk about budget. There was none of that in my home. And so married this man, bunches of money. We were like little kids. We just played and had just la 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 until it didn't, and then he divorced me, and I got a nice little chunk of money, but I never was financially even aware of it. And so this was, the glory days. I came out of the marriage still with 6 figures. I'm doing good. And then the recession hit. Now, the blame on me is that I never managed. I never thought, wait, I should save that little chunk of alimony. And then I went from literally, having $12,000, $13,000 months to $700 months. because his alimony, his business took a hit, and so it was the most wretched thing I've ever been through, because I had they were small. I still have the children, but they were smaller back then. and what they had to, I lost the house, lost my car, had to go bankrupt to get everything out of this. And I was debilitated. I've never been lower. Now what's fascinating, here's kind of the archetype story. I think in all of us, there's that, will somebody come and save me? Who's say, like, wait, where's the guy on the white horse? And nobody saved me.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating is I didn't know the depth of that in me. I would have not thought that I would have had that, but I would lay in bed at night, because it was a very long process. It's not like, Friday you miss a payment and then they take your house Monday. It was a very long, blah. And so I remember I would lay in bed at night, and there was two parts of me. The one part that was a little like, who's saving me? I can't do it. Oh my God. And then the part that was like, get up. You will not quit. And the cool part is I probably was kind of wimpy before this, right? But it solidified in me, there is no other path. I cannot get a job. My work is ministry work to me. It is that there is no, well, I'll just go be a secretary, or I'll go sell shoes, or I'm not employable, right? It was just like, and so it was fascinating, the part that wanted us to go to bed and give up on everything. And then the part that's like, get up, you cannot do that. Now, there were days that I could barely function. And so I would have my girlfriends literally call me every day and just say, I'm knowing for you. I'm believing for you. I am praying for you. Can you just take a minute and see that this is going to be done? And I'd be like, no, because when you're in the middle of it, you never see a way out. And so it literally was, I had a friend that would call me every day, and she would do EFT tapping with me.
Oh, wow.
And so I literally just was held, and that was hard for me to receive. Like, I was an overgiving superhero, right? I was a therapist for a reason, to help people, right? And so deepening more into receiving support, speaking the truth, being real, and then having faith, so that's kind of how I got out of that one.
Wow. So you reached out for support, even though receiving it was not easy. You did reach out, which a lot of people wouldn't have done. They would have been so low into that depression that they couldn't see out. So it's really interesting, that a lot of people think someone's going to save them, and I probably have been there in my life too. And but I think for me also, divorce was a wake-up call that finances need to be managed, and that no matter what your finances are, and I've had people on this show that talk about wealth management and how to build wealth, because I think it's an important topic, especially for women. We grow up, most of us, not paying attention. It's like it's there, or it's not, and it's like, oh, money, don't want to look.
Exactly. You
Dirty
did
topic,
exactly.
right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I hired a financial planner right after my divorce, and I said, whatever little gift I got out of the divorce, I need to protect it.
Yeah.
Because this is my retirement. This is everything. If anything fails, I need something to rely on. And thank God I did that.
Very smart.
Because I had $700 months too. And it can be really, really scary. But when you can be open to receiving, and actually the last show I did that airs right before yours, is we spent a lot of time talking about receiving, the importance of being okay with receiving. And that's true both in your whole life and also in your relationships. We often, as strong women who want to do it all and have it all, we say, we got this. We don't need help. We can do it. And so the other thing you were reminding me of is Ram Dass. And his date of death was just a few days ago. I just read a really interesting little anecdote about him when he had his stroke. And for those of you who don't know him, he was really an incredible man who had so much brilliance that he shared with the world. And when he had his stroke, he had a stroke and was that way, was paralyzed for 20 years. And he said the greatest gift, because he never thought he could handle something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said the greatest gift was that he could, and that he transcended his ego in the process of being
Wow.
bound to a wheelchair. And he
Wow.
died a happy person.
Right.
So, to really think about that extreme of somebody who lost their body, and who are you? And so we're not our age, we are not our bodies, we are not the subject of, how we look. It's really,
Right.
like you said before, it's an inner game. So
Absolutely.
let's talk more about that inner game, because I
Okay.
think that it's a really important piece. So how do you work with clients to really get them into that space of, you mentioned some of the modalities, but take us through maybe a client story, and how you help.
Yeah. So here's a quick one. So having been on both sides of it, a lot of people used to come to me. Everybody comes to me to grow their business, make money, right? But the old days, they would come to me to develop marketing plans and help them with their packages. And I love to teach selling. I love to work with messaging, because there's so much mindset and inner game in that, right? And so what I focus on now more is, where are you getting stuck? Because most smart women know what they're supposed to do. Most of us have hired coaches. We've been in masterminds. We've listened to the courses, and we're like, what is, either I did it and it didn't work, or something's wrong and I can't do it, or this just doesn't feel right. I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So the women I like to work with have an understanding, but like you read in my intro, they're in their own way. And so I'll give you an example. There was a woman I was working with, and what's cool about how I work now, it is so fast because it's all energy. I tap into the energy, and I'm like ninja. I'm a ninja these days, right? Not the old 60-minute talking therapy hour. It's like I'm in and out. And so this woman, I think I had two calls with her. She was really, really, really struggling with clarity. She didn't know who her market was. She was kind of newer, as a newer coach. And she just was struggling so much with, like, I'm afraid, I don't know who, and she was like spinning in confusion. So I don't know do you know what a pendulum is? I say, that's how I tap in, and I say, oh, hold on, let me tune in. And I'm guided that the issue was in utero, which is always funny when you're talking about somebody's business going. You're like, tell me about what was going on when you were in utero. But what I find is the origins of where the energy's stuck. And so I said, okay, tell me the story. What was going on when you were in utero? And she said, well, oh my gosh, this is so weird. My mom always told the story that I came out fingers first. And so I guess the woman just kind of ripped her mom up. There was a lot of physical problems as a result of the delivery. So she said, now, like, I made the decision, because it was so bad for my mom. I made the decision, when I show up, people get hurt. Now let that sink in.
Wow.
And I said, okay, has this affected your relationships? And I showed her how that one decision colored every single piece of her world. And then I did the clearing that I do on it. The next week, she's like, okay, here's my target market. Here's the first offer. You know what I mean? And she had spent a boatload of money with coaches and time, you know what I mean? And that's what most people try to do. We try to use our minds to get a better strategy, or the latest, greatest 7-figure formula, blah, right? And I can say, they can show you how they made 7 figures, but I can show you why you can't and why you're not. So a lot of it's intuition. A lot of it is, like, people come and say, I feel blocked, or some people come and say, I want this, and I'll muscle test and tune in, like, yeah, but you're not giving yourself that permission. And here's what's in the way. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Cool. So that's such an interesting thing. Like, I wouldn't remember anything about my in utero story.
And most don't, but that's the crazy part. But there's your cells remember, right? So you might not have obviously you're pre-verbal. You're not even a human. You're not even out yet. But it's so funny to happen. I mean, I had another person, her mother almost died in childbirth, and the same thing. So she decided that she was a liability, and she felt guilty for surviving. There's a lot of people that have that kind of story. And so try being visible, trying to ask for a sale and raising your rates when you almost killed somebody, right? And it's not logical, but this is what happens. This is how the energy gets trapped in your body.
Yeah. So do you always start with the earliest memory?
No. So it's not a logical thing. That's the thing. So usually what happens, somebody will say, here's what I want. So I always start with desire. What do you want? Well, I want to get 3 new clients, or I want to make 50,000 or whatever. And I'll just say, oh, so I tune in, and it's, are you aligned with that? Yes or no? And one of my questions is this safe? Yes or no? And do you have permission? Yes or no? And if there's no permission, then I go into like, okay, is that even your belief? Because the crazy part, and you probably know this, is we carry others' beliefs, energies, ancestral trauma.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Irish, and so we had the potato famine. We had a lot of suffering and struggle that I brought in my grandma Delia with me, right? And so very often that stuff comes, or just family members. A lot of women carry their husbands, maybe money struggles or fear, just stuff. And so I can sort out, like, is that even your belief? Oh, it's somebody else's belief. Then that's one method. And then sometimes it's like a child part of us, but there's no like, we dissect each. It's just, I ask the first questions and then it tells me where to go.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I discovered with relationships that I had a belief that men disappoint. They don't follow through. And that went back all the way to my dad.
Yep.
It was what I saw and what I was fed. And then I married somebody who didn't come through. And I had somebody point it out to me. She was like, oh, so you're just looking to catch men at disappointing you. And I went, bam.
But, good for your honesty, because a lot of women would not take the time to reflect on that and understand how they created all those people,
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. And once we unlock that, we're like, oh, so I was part of that. And we have to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So what's one of the inner game limiting beliefs that you've overcome?
It must have been that I wasn't enough. And we'll go on relationship place, because that's been a lot of my lessons, right? I've been divorced for years, and so I've had lots of fun experiences. And so it felt like the I'm not good enough to choose. I'm not, nobody's gonna pick me. That's still like the core is shame, just the not enoughness. I don't have it as much in my business. That's an easier place for me. But with relationships, that's like, wow, like, you really want to be here? Like, what? You're gonna stay? Get that. I expected them to leave, probably. Like, yours disappointed. Of course, mine disappointed, but they also left. So it's just, so that's one of them, I think.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I see women who create experiences to push a man away because they become anxious, and then they start doubting and questioning, and then it's like, I'm out of here. This is too hard.
Right.
I connected with somebody recently through the Facebook dating app. And at first I really liked it because I met this cool guy, and we had a great first conversation, and then we started talking, and we were like, wow, this feels like it's in the flow, like it's really flowy.
Yeah.
And after a couple of conversations, we were going to get together, and then he canceled the last minute because he said he was jet lagged and he wanted to be at his best when he met. Okay, that's a great reason. I totally buy it.
Yeah.
Then he said, let me let you know that morning if I slept. So he called me, said, I slept really well, but I don't feel up to it. Okay, well, let's reschedule. Okay. So we keep rescheduling. He keeps canceling. Even phone calls, he's canceling. And I'm like, and then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I have an audition. I have this happen. And I'm like, okay, finally, I was like, you know what? There's no flow in this at all. Like, that flowiness, it's gone. And I'm going to say goodbye because we're not getting off the ground. And that's the point of knowing your value. It's like, I could have been that ping pong of, let me wait for him to be ready.
And we've done that, right? We've all done that.
I did that my whole life.
Me too.
So that's the beauty of knowing your value. It's like, this isn't working. I gave him a chance. I gave him many chances. And it's, so you give people the benefit of the doubt. You're not harsh, but you also value yourself enough to know your energy, your time is all super important.
Absolutely. Yes. It's a great story.
Thanks.
You know that there's an expression that says, people show you who they are. You just need to believe them the first time.
Yes, that's Maya Angelou. I love that quote. Yeah, it's like we go, okay, they showed me, but
Oh, maybe it'll be
maybe it's
different.
not true, right? Maybe I will be the one who
Oh,
changes them.
no, I'm the one. Yes,
Right? No,
that's
it's
the cool. Yeah.
me.
Okay. Well, lucky men that they have us saving them, right?
That's
Yes.
right. I mean, really,
Sure.
and changing them because men and women really want to be changed.
Yeah, that's a big hit. That's a big hit.
So,
Yep.
Therese, tell us what you're creating in the world right now.
So, it's really strange. I'm transitioning, so it's been an interesting shift where I hired a coaching stint for a group, and they said stop saying you're a business coach, and it was so fascinating. Talk about value. I'll just be transparent with this because I've been identified as a business coach for 15 years, right? And they're like, coach business women, but let others do strategy, do marketing, all that. And I really had this like, is what I do enough? And the crazy part is because, like I said, I'm such a ninja. I literally, 15 minutes, people are like, worlds are rocking, right? And so I had to look at all the places that I over delivered and all the, you know what I mean? So it's kind of new. It's kind of new. I don't even know what to call myself. I'm a guide. I'm a mentor. I don't even know. You know what I mean? It still hasn't all landed. So what I'm creating, I want to work with high achieving women. Do work with high achieving women. I'm creating a new podcast soon, and I have a book launching in a couple months. I have a really rockin' Facebook community called Fierce AF Women in Business, because I got that little edge.
Yeah.
I'm creating. I'm having a great relationship right now with my man, and I'm creating a lot of joy in that, and just really magic in that relationship. So,
Mm.
creating the healthiest body I've ever had. What? Started doing Pilates and eating really clean, and so I really like. It's been a kind of a rough few years, and I feel like I'm, especially with a new decade starting. I feel like I'm on this other side of like, oh yeah, way more self-expressed and more true as me, as the truth of me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's a big risk to pivot. And,
Yes.
but I think that women and men who are really attuned to what's real for them
Mhm, mhm.
often pivot a lot.
You have to. You have
Yeah,
to, right?
I was coaching a young woman once who was like 20, and she was so like, had this angst about who is she and what should she major in, and she needed to know her whole life. And we did a lot of work with knowing her why and really
Mhm.
finding those pivotal moments in her life that defined her. And I just said to her, it doesn't matter what you do, it has to just represent these qualities of you because these are
Mhm.
who you are. You
Mhm.
don't need to know the end of the story. You don't
Right.
need to, because we change. And if you're
Yeah.
open to feeling into what's next for you, and you have to like take those 15 years to get there sometimes.
Mhm.
And you major in one thing. I know so many people who are lawyers who never practiced law or who
Wow.
started one
Yeah.
way and
Yeah.
ended up in a completely different world. I mean, I
Mhm.
was I was an artist and I was married to a
Oh,
comedian, and I had a whole different life.
wow.
I was a head writer in a comedy show, always doing my art on the side, juggling
Yeah.
500 balls. I still juggle 500 balls because
Yeah.
I like it. I like the interesting part of my life that is writing and reading and
Yeah.
teaching and um, because I can't do one thing. And so it's like if somebody else says to you, well, you have to focus and you have to
Oh.
do this and and it's tuning into what lights you up.
Mhm.
And when I started this podcast, I had already had a successful podcast for 6 years. I have 380 episodes under my belt. And here I
Wow.
am going, okay, step one, get a
Yeah.
new social media, get new
Right.
everything, start a new
Right.
website, podcast, try to get clients, get into the corporate world. I was doing all these things for the first time, and it was scary and it felt vulnerable. I was going
Mhm.
around to events and pitching myself as this new thing, and I felt like a fraud.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's really not that different from what I did before. And
Right.
so I think that what you're finding is this is what I do really well.
Mhm.
And I don't
Mhm.
want to do all the things that I don't do as well. I want
Right.
to have other people do them so I can do
Mhm.
this more. And
Exactly.
and I think that clearing all that energy allowed the space for a man to come into your life that is bringing you that magic.
Good.
I think it's all connected. I do.
Thank
I
you.
think that when we change and shift into one area, we often create space for something else
Mhm.
great to
Mhm.
come in.
Yeah, and I find that, well, actually what created the energy is I got dumped.
Ah,
And I didn't know that I was settling because I was convincing myself, because it was good. It was like, each person gets better and better. Each
yeah.
relationship is better and better. And so I was like, oh, and I noticed after after my exit plan happened, I wasn't even looking. I was not looking. And boom, it was just, we showed up at a party and it was like, what? It was crazy, crazy, crazy. And so, and I also had to grieve who I was in the other relationship, how I was tolerating, how I had little blinders on, how I was making up excuses. And he was a wonderful man, but not like this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that has created, and I never want to say, oh, I'm so good now because I have a man. That's not it at all. But this man in particular, like, this is the best compliment. I'm the best version of myself. I love who I show up as, because I don't even know the what or the why. It's just really good.
Yeah.
So I know it will shift my business as well, because I'm just in a very different energy. I have a
That's
lot of joy
wonderful.
and fun and delight. So
Yeah, that's such an important thing. And I think also as women, we forget about that part. And it is so
so
much
much.
of our feminine energy is joy and play and delight. And
Yeah.
as a woman who was married to a comedian, there is definitely that part. Definitely had a lot of play.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when we have certain elements, we think, okay, we can make the other things work.
Exactly.
And
Right. Right.
obviously that didn't work in your last relationship. But when you
Mhm.
make that
Mhm.
space and you're not forcing that energy,
Mhm.
but you
Mhm.
allowed it,
Yeah.
the right person stepped in. And
I knew. Pretty
yeah.
magical. Yeah. Thank you.
And I think that's also the beauty of finding relationships at this stage in life is that we are a much better version of ourselves if we do the work.
If we do the work, I was going to say yes. If we
Yes,
do the
not
work.
all of
Yeah.
us. Not all of
Caveat.
us. I've
Yeah.
certainly
Mhm.
met a lot of people who are really stuck.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, so we're up to the lightning round, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of really quick
Okay.
questions so we can get to know you a little better. And the first question is fill in the blank, and I think you already answered this. I used to think I wasn't blank enough.
Enough. Enough.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Just
enough,
enough.
enough. Is
A whole
that
total global. Yeah.
yeah. What was the number one thing holding you back from becoming a woman of value?
How I was raised. My father devaluing me, being raised with shame, just devalued, and
Yeah,
childhood trauma. So that was it.
and feeling like you were lucky to be chosen.
Well,
Please
lots of
choose me.
correlation. Lots of correlation there. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's a mistake you made that taught you an important life lesson?
I think the overgiving. I feel like when I started my business, again, you have to go, why does somebody choose being a therapist? Because they're codependent and they're trying to fix and save and help, right? And so I came into this industry tr- just overgiving and trying to get my needs met, right? And it was like, I'll be better than your last mentor. And with men too, the same thing. It's all similar, right?
Hmm.
And so overgiving, and then, you know picking the wrong people, tolerating the wrong, same thing. Like, I could substitute relationship with client. It's the same thing.
Of wanting to be
And
liked.
so, yeah, so I think that's probably a mistake.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the money
totally.
thing, we already talked about that, but this was not having boundaries. I think that would be the mistake, not having correct boundaries. Because when you're enough, you don't have to work 7 days a week, and you're enough, you can have these hours. And when you're overgiving, you like, oh, okay, anything you want, I'll do anything you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I pulled it in. I learned pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, boundaries to me are everything. I
Hmm.
teach a whole course on boundaries with a
Hmm.
woman named Teresa. And it is one of my favorite things to
Yeah.
teach. It's like people have these aha moments of like going from codependency and being the pretzel who twists herself to
Yep.
uh, to being open. And this year we didn't just do it for women; we opened it to men also. And
Wow.
we had a couple who were
Okay.
doing it together, and it was
Oh.
fascinating. I mean, they were learning so much about each other and how they needed to really ask for what they wanted more clearly and
Yeah.
to set those boundaries. It's an
That's
amazing
really
thing.
awesome. Yeah, that is awesome.
I love it. What's the best advice you can give to a woman who wants to become more empowered?
Hmm. Get support. because what I know is I don't think we can do this on our own. I really don't. I think our history, our trauma, our cultural or gender influences just shroud us. And so for me, it was literally other people saying, you're enough, you're good, you know what I mean? And it's lovely if we could just go, boom, I value myself, right? But I think sometimes you need another voice if you don't have that, if you weren't raised with that. Because we tend to pick people that match our childhoods. And so if you were devalued, we'll pick, if you know this very well. And so get support. And then I also you have to shift your whole identity. And so it's really asking yourself, okay, am I making this decision based on scarcity, lack, or am I making this based on I'm a badass and I deserve good stuff, right? And you might not feel like it. Like you talked in the beginning, you felt like probably a fraud and it was uncomfortable, but you did the actions anyway. So it's get people that see you correctly, and then take the actions as if it's already done. I said to my clients, imagine if it's inevitable. Imagine the thing you want, it's inevitable. What happens in your body? You're like, okay, imagine it's already done, right? And so if you can, I think those two will help you get it.
That's excellent. I have a friend who's a coach, and she used to have this event where it was called Come As You Will Be. And it's
nice.
who you will be in 5 years.
Very
and
nice. Yeah.
Whether it's, famous author on the New York Times bestseller list, and you come with your book and you talk about it. You go, yeah, I've been on tour, and it really helps you to step in and start to change those neural pathways and to really believe it by doing it.
Right.
Saying it, because thinking it doesn't do it.
Right. Absolutely.
So we are going to have in the show notes links to all your group and your Facebook and all that stuff. But if you could just give your website, and then I have one more question.
Sure. It's ThereseSkelly.com. ThereseSkelly.com.
Awesome. And finally, Therese, I love this question, the legacy question. How would you like to be remembered?
A woman that gave hope and inspiration. I did a speaker training years ago, and I had this vision where literally I'm going to get choked up. Mother Teresa handed the mantle of compassion to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so just holding people with compassion and giving hope and inspiration are really, really important to me.
Beautiful. And self-compassion. That's where it starts, right?
Absolutely.
Just being kind to yourself, and then you have the bandwidth to be there for others. Otherwise, you're the giver with the empty vessel. And we filled your vessel up, and so now you're overflowing. And you have great energy, and I can really see how you help your clients. And thank you so much for coming on and showing us what a woman of value is.
Thanks. This was a delightful interview. I had so much fun with you.
If you would like to step more fully into your value, grab a free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Woman of Value on my website, thewomanofvalue.com. Just click the link at the top of the homepage. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to click the subscribe button in your listening app. And if there's something in this episode that inspired you, please share it with others, because the more we share these inspirational stories, the more women of value we will have in this world. I'll see you next time.